Hey, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to tie some furled leaders. I've been using them lately here on Lake Fork. I did another video out on the water yesterday to sort of show you why I use them, but I'll just kind of follow up with that. One of the reasons that I like these furled leaders is because with these heavier flies that I'm throwing, particularly big old bulky deer hair flies and things like that, it makes it a lot easier to turn that fly with that heavier leader, these furled leaders, and they're real strong. I've really become fond of them, and mostly because I feel like I have anyway, a lot more control of my fly when I'm throwing these big old flies, and I'm throwing them in all kinds of brush and stumps and all kinds of stuff, and I feel like these leaders are just a little bit tougher. I normally would use a 15, 20, or even 25 pounds just straight monofilament leader, but I've gotten to where I wanted to try something different, so I went ahead and did this. Found an easy way to tie them. So let's tie a couple up. I'll show you how I'm doing it. First of all, I've got 15-pound, this is just 15-pound trilene. I bet I've had this for at least that many years. So it's just a 100-yard spool, 900-yard spool. Probably lasts me the rest of my life at this rate. I'm just going to pull off about four. We're going to pull off 4 arm lengths, and so it doesn't have to be a particular length, but you want to figure that I like to use a total of about 9 feet for my 9-foot rods for leader. That's the longest that I want it, and so that means that I'm going to need this furled leader plus my tippet, and my tippet can be, well, it'll end up probably being around 3 or 3.5 feet, which may sound like a lot to some guys that don't fish with rods this big, but I can go through 3 or 4 feet of tippet in a day easily, changing out flies or losing flies. The other day I had a customer out, and before I looked up, he had lost 2 or 3 of my flies in trees, and so you have to sort of plan for the idea that you're going to be losing some flies up in some trees. So what I've done is I've just taken the ends and put them together, and then I found the halfway point, and I've just folded it over. So I've got now that length of line, which I guess should be around 12 feet, pulled in half. So I have like 2 6-foot sections basically. Now what I'm doing is I'm just basically pinching it to where I make a little loop, and make that loop about the size that's going to be about the size of the loop you end up with. This is the loop where you're going to connect your tippet. And I'm going to put one side of the line on each side of my big body, because the idea is to not have these 2 tag ends, these 2 pieces I'm twisting together. I don't want them to get tangled up with each other, or it creates a big old mess that I have to untangle. So separate them out. Now I'm going to start twisting, and in the twisting with these fingers right here, I'm basically just guiding the line. I'm not pinching it so much as I'm just holding it in place. It's just loosely. And then I'm going to start twisting clockwise. And I'm just going to pull it through. I'm going to do an entire leader for you, so it gets a little mundane after a while, but I'm just twisting it. This is 15-pound test, just regular old monofilament, trilene big game monofilament. You could use any line, any test that you want. and I do various test lines. I'll do 8-pound test. I'll do up to 20-pound test. So why would I do a 20-pound test? I mean, that's something that you would think that you would do if you were doing this for, you know, big giant predator fish down in the Amazon or something. Well, down here, around here on Lake Fork, these big bass in this lake are very, very clever about finding trees and stumps to get hung up in. So I'll tell you, and there's some big fish in here. When you get a 6, 8-pound bass, or even a 5-pound bass on a fly rod, it's quite a fight. There's nothing super easy about it. So we're just twisting this line. Now I'm trying to kind of keep up with it. You'll get little gaps in it, and I'll go back and pull it apart and kind of fill them back in and retwist. I'm also going to pull this line and see how tangled up it gets down here. It gets all twisted. I'm going to just sort of untwist it every now and then just to keep it from getting too messy on me. And then I may just pull this back apart a tiny bit, and then I'm going to keep twisting. I'm out here on my deck at my trailer at Lake Fork. It's 70 degrees. It's November, Thanksgiving week. We've got some weather about to move in, so there's wind blowing today, and I'm not going to be able to get out and fish. So when I have time and the, you know, decent day to be out here, I'm going to just sit out here, and usually I'll have my rock and roll going on my radio. Can't do that on YouTube, but just sit out here and relax, and sometimes talk to my wife, and we'll just I'll just sit here and tie these guys up. It doesn't take long to do them once you've figured it out and you've got 2 or 3 of them under your belt. It's easy, it's fast. You can kind of figure out all these little funky things, like right here where I've got this little, well, I had a little gap in the line, and I pulled it apart back to that gap, and I'll just start over. And I'm going to try to get this as tight as I can. I like a real good tight twist on this. And as you can see, I'm having to sort of manage this line where I'm pulling it back and forth, managing it so it doesn't get tangled up all in itself. And then this is now so short. Now I've already gone through 6 feet of line right here. So you can see in 5 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever it is, I've gotten through it pretty quick. So you can see also that I'm not really pinching that line, I'm just holding it together. There's another gap right there. You can see that. I'm just going to pull back past it. Grab my line and twist away. You hear the TV in the background. That's my better half in there. Hopefully she's watching recipe shows on YouTube so that we can have a decent meal tonight. I'm just kidding. Okay. There we go. Just about there. It doesn't matter. You can go all the way to the end if you want. Mine are a little uneven. I don't really worry so much about it being a particularly long leader. Now I'm going to have, I'm not leader, but, well, yeah, my furled leader. I was thinking a tippet. So I'm going to have about 6 feet to work with at this point. You can see it's a little uneven. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie one overhand knot to just sort of lock all that in place. Easy deal right there. And just to keep things from getting messy, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of take my old rusty razor blade here and kind of cut that off. You can see my razor blade. Luckily, it isn't too sharp. I probably cut myself. Now, this is what I've ended up with. So I had about 6 feet or so of furled line. Now, that's just a double wrap. It's just one wrap. You can see the end of it. That's about the size of it. And I don't know why my phone's doing whatever it's doing. I'm going to shut it off real quick. So that's this will end up being where my tippet is looped together. Now, some guys put those tippet rings on there. I don't know a thing about them. I don't use them. It's just something else I'd have to keep up with. And here's the other end. So now what you can do is, if you want to do this in thirds, which a lot of guys use thirds, and they're going to take, and you're just going to kind of loop it up here till it's even, till you've got thirds. You can do it this way, and then I've got it kind of stretched out here, and you can see it's sort of like that. And then I'm going to take the end right here, not the end with the loop, but the other end, and I'm going to pinch it like that, and I'm going to drop off that other piece. So now I have thirds. I have one third here that I'm going to wrap, and here's the other third or so, and you can change that. So I can pull that down a little bit if I want to make this double, the heavy end. We'll call it the heavy end. If I want to make the heavy end a little longer, I can do that. I might want to just do that. I like my heavy end a little longer. And then I'll end up with four wraps here. And then the original where I told you the leader's going to tie up, that's still the 2 wraps, or one time looped over it. Now, we're going to come back and kind of do the same thing. Here's our loop that's going to end up being our connection to our fly line. We're going to take this over and this over. Now, the only difference is we're going to spin this instead of clockwise. We're going to spin it counterclockwise. So we're going to just spin it just like that, counterclockwise, and I'm going to make it as tight as I can. Counterclockwise, same thing, exact same thing I did before. Now, I don't know if this makes your line 4 times stronger, or I don't know. I've heard guys say it does. Maybe it does. It hasn't ever been an issue with me. I'm more interested in the volume. Now I've got it done. Now I've got 1/3, and I've got 1/3, well, half and half. It's now turned into half and half, basically. Now to finish it off, I'm going to do a surgeon's knot right here at this intersection. So here's my surgeon's knot. I'm going to lick it and tie it up real good and tight. Then we're going to just trim that off without hopefully cutting ourselves. And that's it. That is a furled leader. Now I'll do them out of different, let's talk about how we want to wrap this thing up here. I'll do them different. I'll do an 8-pound line, I've got 8-pound line right here, just old Eagle Claw line from Walmart. I've got 10-pound, some Andy 10-pound right here. I'll use both of these, but the big problem I had, of course, was how to mark them. I'll show you that in a minute. So I'm going to wrap this around my hand, starting with the skinny end. And then I'm going to just loop it around carefully, making sure that I wrap over that skinny end right there. Now that way I'll always know when I want to undo this that the heavy end is what I want to unwrap. And that's important because they can get tangled up so easy. And now I'm going to take a piece of this. I just have some frog tape here, and I'm going to mark it, and I'm just going to put 15 on it. So I know this is a 15-pound test that I'm using on this. And then I'm going to just do that. I'm using frog tape so I know I can get it off, and that's it. That is how you make a furled line. That's how you store it. And this is how I mark them so I know what's what. I'm going to tie a whole bunch of these up with different... Why do I use different line diameters? Well, I might be fishing for... I might decide that I'm fishing for bass with a top water. I might be fishing for sand bass. I might, it's different fish or different depths that I might be fishing. All kinds of reasons I may decide to change that and put a lighter line on. I might use a 5-weight. I keep 4 or 5 rods in my boat, of course, when I'm guiding. And so I'll have a 5-weight, 7-weight, an 8-weight, maybe 2 7-weights. Who knows? Depends on how many people I have and how experienced they are. And so I'm going to put a different weight of furled leader on there depending on the rod that I have somebody using and how experienced they are, because it has a lot to do with it too. Hey, I appreciate you watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something from it. And if you did, please subscribe. Please subscribe and like and share and help us grow this channel. I'll be putting some more videos up as the fishing season slows down. I'm Alex Guthrie with Fly Fish Fork, and this is the Everyday Fly Fisherman video series. Have a good day.